graders, and welcome back to the last episode of the math show with Miss Condry. I know you guys are all so sad that you're not going to have any more videos of math strategies. I'm sure you're crying your eyes out right now, as are your parents. Okay, quick reminder as you're working on this last packet, very last packet of your elementary school year, to have a positive attitude, be respectful, keep on trying even when it's hard, and to remember that word yet. So if you don't understand something, remember that's a temporary thing, and the more you work at it, the more you're going to understand it better. Today I'm going to be going over one of the pages from this math packet. It even says last packet. Woo, happy summer. I'm hoping this packet isn't as hard as last week's. Last week's was a really challenging packet. You are going to review and go over those things and relearn the stuff from last week next year in 6th grade. Don't worry. The very first page of this packet is pretty straightforward if you read the directions and read the examples. Also check your work with those answer keys in the back. I'm not going to go over this because we've talked about this enough, and I think if you read the examples, it's going to be pretty straightforward. Of course, if you have questions, you can always ask me. What I am going to go over is this page, the adding and subtracting decimals. And I just want to go over the strategy that I want you to be using for this. So our learning target today is that you can use the strategy, the standard algorithm, to add and subtract decimals. This is great practice because most of you are really good at the addition standard algorithm, and most of you really struggle with the subtraction standard algorithm. So this is going to be a great place to practice, because as you move into middle school, you need to know the algorithms really well, because for a lot of problems like this, they're going to be the most efficient. Okay, so we're going to start with the addition standard algorithm. This one is going to feel fairly straightforward to you. I think most of you really understand this quite well, but I want to go over a couple really key details that you need to pay attention to as you're solving these, because not all of them are lined up for you. So in this example, I've got 7 and 63 hundredths. Don't forget to read these decimals the right way. Please, please, please. Parents, make sure your kids are reading them the right way. 7 and 63 hundredths plus 4 and 592 thousandths. When you line up your numbers for the standard algorithm, it's really important that you line them up by place. So all the ones are lined up together, all the tenths are lined up together, hundredths and thousandths. The easiest way to do this is to line up where the decimal point is, because the decimal point is your clue to where those other place values are. Okay, so I'm going to start by putting 7 and 63 hundredths right there. And then I have to line up 4 and 592 thousandths. So in this case with the decimals, it's going to look a little bit funny because it has more place values here. So the 4 is in the ones place next to the decimal, so it has to go under the 7 ones, and the decimal lines up right underneath there. Then the 5 tenths are under the 6 tenths, 9 hundredths, and then there's 2 thousandths. So it just goes over off by itself. So my decimals are lined up. Make sure when you're lining your numbers up that your decimal points are lined up and all the other place values are lined up correctly. All right, now we're going to solve. So I'm going to start all the way over here with the very smallest place value. 2 thousandths plus, there's nothing up here, is just going to be 2 thousandths. Then I add up my hundredths. 3 hundredths plus 9 hundredths is 12 hundredths. Okay, so 12 hundredths is really 2 hundredths and 1 tenth. So I'm going to put that 1 tenth above the tenths place. Then I've got 6 tenths plus 5 tenths plus 1 tenth, and that's 12 tenths. And 12 tenths is really 2 tenths and 1 1. So now I've got my decimal point there, and I add up 1, 7, and 4 in the ones place, which is going to be 8 plus 4 is 12. So that's 2 ones and a 10 in 12. So it's 12 and 222 thousandths. Okay, really important. A lot of times kids want to skip this step of putting or of carrying the place value over, but then they end up forgetting to add it later. Okay, so if you need to rewind and watch this again, feel free to do that. Now I'm going to go over the subtraction standard algorithm. This is where a lot of you are going to struggle a little bit more. So I want to go over a couple things that might be challenging. Again, with the subtraction algorithm, it's all about lining up your place values. So when we do this, we have to make sure we start with the larger number on the top line. So with addition, it doesn't matter what order you do it in, but with subtraction, we know order matters. So 5 and 604 thousandths. And we're going to subtract 3 and 25 thousandths. Okay. All right. Again, with algorithms, we always are starting over to the right with the smallest place value. So the smallest place value here is our thousandths, and we're always subtracting from that top number. So we're starting with the top digit, that top place value, and then we're going to subtract the digit that's underneath it. And you can see we're starting with 4, and we have to subtract 5 thousandths, but we only have 4 thousandths, so we can't actually do that. We need, if we're going to subtract 5, we need more thousandths. So I'm going to go to the place value right next door to it in the hundredths, and there are no hundredths to use. We can't break apart those hundredths into thousandths right now. So we're going to go to the next place value, which is a 6. We can take from the 6/10. So we're going to actually take one of the tenths away, and we'll be left with 5/10 in that place value. And we're going to give that tenth to the hundredths place, and it's going to turn into 10 hundredths. So now I have 10 hundredths, and I have some to borrow now. So this 4 is happy because it can borrow from its next door neighbor. Okay, so then I'm going to cross out the 10 and make that 9 and give one of those tenths, or one of those hundredths, to the 4 thousandths. So that will make actually 14 thousandths. All right, that was a little bit tricky. I would encourage you to watch that part again if you don't remember how to do that. Okay, that's up to you, and you have to make sure that you understand how to borrow when there's nothing next door to borrow. Okay, so now I've got 14 hundredths, or thousandths, I'm sorry, minus 5 thousandths. So I know 14 minus 4 would be 10, minus 1 more would be 9. So I'm left with 9 thousandths there. Then I have 9 hundredths, and I'm going to subtract 2 hundredths. 9 minus 2 is 7 hundredths. And then I have 5 tenths minus 0 tenths. That's pretty straightforward. 5 tenths. Then I have my 5 ones minus 3 ones, and that is 2. Okay, so my answer is 2 and 579 thousandths. Now, the great thing about subtraction is that it's related to addition, and what we could do to even check our answer, I wasn't actually planning on doing this, but this might be helpful, is we can take our answer and add it to the number we subtracted. And if we add those up together and we get this first number that we started with, then we know we did it correctly. So if you're better at addition than you are subtraction, that would be a really good way to check your work before even looking at the answer keys. So I'd encourage you to do that. All right, these are both strategies that your parents are going to be very good at. They know how to do this. This is the way they learned in school. So I have a feeling you're all going to be a little relieved this week because you can work together on this, and you'll need to really make sure you listen to your parents because they're probably better at the algorithm than you are. All right, good luck, and I will see you guys next week for our last team sessions. Don't hesitate to call or text or email me if you have any questions about the math this week. All right, bye 5th graders.